Not to mention, this thing is god-awful to drive. It still has a 3.6-liter V6, no Hemi, no Hellcat engine, nothing, no V8 of any sorts. It is incredibly underpowered. The steering wheel shakes.
Y'all know I just got this new truck again, brand new. Why I just got in my car to go to the pool with the kids? What the?
They told me it needed a PCM. Checked it again, check engine light still wouldn't go out. Then they said it needed an ECM, engine control module. They replaced that, check engine light went out, it was fine. Check engine light came right back on again. They replaced the grille shutters again, and they replaced the active air dam underneath the bumper. The truck went into limp mode and wouldn't go over like 30 miles an hour. Truck needed another PCM, 2 new fuel injectors. Truck only had 29,000 miles on it.
Buying a brand new car is supposed to give you peace of mind, not a growing list of repair bills. But these owners found out the hard way that some modern vehicles are packed with baffling engineering, questionable quality, and failures that shouldn't happen. Let's take a look at some of the most frustrating car ownership stories on the internet. All right, let's kick things off with a truck that's basically apologizing for existing before it even hits 6 figures on the odometer. Listen to this guy explain why his 250,000-mile beater is still running strong while brand new trucks are dropping dead in the driveway.
Little Focus here that I got. It needs a timing belt and a few little things, but guess what? The thing has like 250,000 miles and it has still got the original motor and transmission. So why do all these older vehicles go so fucking far on their original motors and transmissions, you ask? And why your new piece of shit barely makes it like 10, 15, 50,000 miles without blowing 12 fucking engines? The answer is simple. Today's manufacturers are trying to get fucking 500 fucking horsepower out of a twin turbocharged 1.5 liter. The GM LS based engine they put in trucks now with active fuel management are making well over 400 horsepower, and they're trying to get 20 miles to the gallon out of a Suburban. Literally, everyone going down this fucking destructive path, making these fucking $90,000, $80,000 luxury vehicles that just blow the fuck up whenever, unpredicted, they're not worth a fuck. None of them are. Prove me wrong.
But hey, at least that guy's truck still runs. Watch this next one, because we're about to talk about a truck with 6 wheels, a $172,000 price tag, and somehow still not enough buttons to justify it.
Little story time. I'm currently sitting in a 6x6 Jeep Gladiator. I know that sounds cool. It looks cool. It's got 6 wheels, the bed liner paint, whatever. But there's an issue with this car. It's $172,000. And the build quality might just be worse than a normal Gladiator. First of all, you have the basic same interior as a Gladiator, except for these orange leather seats, which are whatever. That doesn't work. This heads-up display doesn't work. Watch what happens when I pull up the backup camera. Yes. Check engine light is on, only 7,000 miles. Manual seats in a $172,000 car. The only power thing it has is the windows. Not to mention, this thing is god-awful to drive. It still has a 3.6-liter V6, no Hemi, no Hellcat engine, nothing, no V8 of any sorts. It is incredibly underpowered. The steering wheel shakes. You feel like you're going 80 miles per hour when you're actually going 50. But, I mean, it looks cool. I'll give it that. It looks really cool. I mean, it's massive. This thing has road presence like a motherfucker. And, you know, you do have some off-roading features. You have your winch. You have your rough bed liner paint. You got your front grille cover. You have your Fox body shocks. These big ass wheels and tires. I mean, it's high up to the ground. The frame is thicker than your mother. I mean, it is a cool looking car. But for this $172,000 price tag, it just feels like a Jeep with 6 wheels. I don't think I could easily justify that price tag at all with this car.
I swear I cannot make this up. Y'all know I just got this new truck again, brand new. Why I just got in my car to go to the pool with the kids? What the? Bruh, Chevy, I am so sick and tired, bruh. I pay way too much money for a brand new goddamn car, and it's the second time? Bruh, my car is not starting. There's no way it could be a battery. I didn't leave no lights on in my car. There's no way it could be a battery. I just bought this car. And why would it keep turning over like this? Like, listen. That can't be why would it sound like that? Bruh, and it smells like something is burning. Bruh, there's no way, bruh. Like, there's no way.
At this point, Chevy isn't selling trucks, they're selling emotional support vehicles that occasionally start. All right, listen to this next guy, because GM's engineering philosophy on cylinder deactivation is basically, let's save gas by slowly destroying the engine instead.
Folks, a 2020 Chevrolet Silverado Z71 with the 5.3, all these trucks are having the same problem. And as you can hear, the engine is already going out. Why is GM doing this with all the new trucks? Who knows? So they can screw the customer into buying another engine. But this engine has barely 50,000 miles. And look, it's already damaged. And it's not just this one. We have several cars to fix. Not just this, both the Camaros and the Chevrolets are all having a problem with the lifters. The DOD, that whole system to save gas in these vehicles that deactivates cylinders and turns it into a 4-cylinder when you're on the freeway. And well, that's the result. Barely any miles, and the engine's already screwed. You have to change the whole engine to cover it under warranty. If you only change the lifters, there's a chance the rod bearings underneath get damaged and the engine seizes up. Because it's already happened to me on a truck that was running fine at 30,000 miles, boom, the engine seized on the road and it started sounding like this.
Ahorrar gasolina en estos.
Right? On normal cars, you have 2 stalks on either end of the steering column. You know, for normal people. Humans, 2 of everything. 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 balls. Well, whichever mutant came up with this idea needs to be drawn and quartered and shot and burned in an easy bake oven because they decided to put everything on 1 stalk. Look at this hieroglyphic corncob space shuttle challenger looking piece of shit. It looks like a bop it machine. So now in order I need to wipe my rear and wipe my front and indicate and flash motherfuckers so everyone thinks I'm having a seizure and they're going to call the cops.
Somehow, automakers looked at 2 stalks, one for wipers and one for turn signals, decided that was too easy to understand, and combined them into one lever that makes you feel like you're performing a magic trick just to turn left.
This is why Jeep is the worst car you can buy. The last time I was able to drive my car was in August. I've had 3 batteries replaced. I've had a circuit breaker replaced. And currently it's with a dealership in Homestead, Florida. I set up an appointment for it to be towed to the dealership. And even though I had an appointment for noon, the car was not looked at for 15 days. And here's the best part. You used to be able to start my car when we towed it there. Now it's just flat out dead.
All right, listen to this next guy.
All right, a lot of you guys are asking me about why my 19 Ram was unreliable, and I'm going to tell you. So I still drive the truck every day. It's my daily driver, and I've had it since it was brand new. But around 29,000 miles, it started having major issues. So the check engine light came on initially, and they told me it needed the active shutters replaced. They replaced the grill shutters, check engine light went away, it was fine. About a week later, check engine light came back. They told me it needed a PCM, powertrain control module. Checked it again, check engine light still wouldn't go out. Then they said it needed an ECM, engine control module. They replaced that, check engine light went out, it was fine. Check engine light came right back on again. They replaced the grill shutters again, and they replaced the active air dam underneath the bumper. Check engine light went out, truck was fine. Then about 2 weeks later, truck started running really rough. The truck went into limp mode and wouldn't go over like 30 miles an hour. Got the truck towed to the dealer. Truck needed another PCM. The truck needed 2 new fuel injectors. Truck only had 29,000 miles on it. Ever since then, it's ran okay. Knock on wood, but it's been a freaking nightmare.
And speaking of things that shouldn't fail this early, watch this next clip, because apparently Jeep Gladiators are losing reverse gear like it's an optional feature nobody actually paid for.
This issue we're going to start seeing a lot more with these new Jeep Gladiators. What we had here was a transmission failure. Obviously it's a 2020, so it's just probably getting out of warranty and getting up to that mileage where we start seeing this failure. This guy here, he lost reverse. More likely not from servicing the transmission. Pretty common that the dealers sell you guys these cars. They say, hey, don't worry about it. You ain't got to do nothing for 100,000 miles. It's just not the case. Transmission fluid, differential fluid, all that stuff lasts about 30,000 miles. We can go on and on about it, talk about it. They do make oil better, but you change your oil every 5,000 miles.
But if you thought that was bad, listen to this next one, because this is where things go from annoying repair to manufacturer actively trolling their own mechanics.
Hey Garrett, what's up, man? Which car has a repair process that just feels like a prank from the manufacturer?
Got gray ones for this. So this is going to be a tie because Land Rover uses some of these engines too. Any of the Ford EcoBoosts that are coming out now, so I'm specifically talking about the 2.0, the 1.8, the 1.6, and the 1.5. So Ford had this bright idea that they were no longer going to key a crank anymore. So there's no keyway in the crankshaft. This harmonic balancer can be installed any way that you want it to, like it will literally just free spin. So let me give you an example. I did I believe it was a 1.8 or a 1.6 timing belt job. It's like a 15-hour timing belt job. To get to the belt and take the cover off is super quick, but because nothing is keyed, you have to install all these holders. So there's a cam holder, there's a flywheel holder, there's a pin for the crank after you put cylinder 1 on top dead center. So you have to pull the axle out. So it's literally a joke. Like, they're trying to make it as hard as possible for people to work on their own cars.